Well, hello there. It's time for an account fixing video. It's been a little bit of a while. I verify. What does that mean? We're on Hito-sanzu's account. They have Mualan, obviously. I picked out this account specifically because I realized I don't think I have fixed an account that was 100% free to play, but I also wanted to fix an account that was at this really weird middle ground area right now, wherein, Hito-sanzu's at AR-55, almost very close to AR-56. That's not that important. Specifically, the AR-55 range is a interesting point wherein, like, I think some people feel like they should be able to start clearing Abyss fully, but then they might struggle. And I don't think you should feel bad not being able to 36-star Abyss by AR-55. Can you clear Abyss by AR-55? Potentially, yes, but it very much depends on the Abyss cycle and depends on, RNG. It depends on the decisions that you have made as far as what characters to level up, yada, yada, yada. There's no specific reason you should just 100% be able to 36-star the Abyss by a given time. Like, that should be one of the lessons of this video series that I've run, is that, you gotta, learn things about characters and the game mechanics and whatever going on to be able to achieve whatever your goal is as far as, combat goals. Anyways, this account is free to play. Well, okay, they told me they were free to play. I didn't actually, there's no way to verify, that account is free to play. Ooh, 11 Primo Gems. In some ways, that is the way to verify, but, I mean, probably the only true way is to make sure, okay. Oh boy, 33,000 Mora. Oh dear, this, we got some condensed resin. We have no fragile resin. I don't know what I was gonna say there. How many billets? Yeah. Hey, you got some Claymore billets. That could be useful. Hito-sanzu did say they have Dia, and they wanted ways to use Dia, which, considering they have Mualani, shouldn't be that hard. Why? What? Okay, well, maybe that. Well, I'm assuming they don't have Chlorand if this is not leveled up. What banner did this run on? Did this run with Al-Haytham's weapon, I think? Okay, but anyway, the weapon screen is the number one way to prove that, a player is free to play, right? There's no battle pass weapons here, which probably proves that this account does look free to play. It definitely looks free to play. Ooh, this is not a very good artifact situation. Where's all your resources gone up to AR-55? You have very few. You have one weapon leveled to 90, and it's Mappa Mare for some godforsaken reason. This immediately is giving me vibes of I don't think I'm going to be able to fix this account without farming a lot. Now, in case you haven't followed this video series before, I do not focus on let's just spend 8 billion resin to fix things. No, my goal is to inform people and provide options that you may not have realized were there in making these videos. So so this is kind of immediately giving the vibe. Not even Neuvi level 90. Oh boy. Chi-Chi is level 73. We got a Tignari, we got a Neuvi, we have a Nahida. We got Kuki, obviously. And we have Mualani. This account is not in a bad state to start. Also, another thing about it, I wonder, have they been wishing on these banner? No, not that banner. Actually, I wonder, was this just an early, or did they actually wish to pity? Oh, they wish to pity. Why did you go to pity on this banner? Don't wish a weapon banner. Okay, is there a point when you're free to play that it can make sense to wish on weapon banner? Yes, but it's very much like when you've been playing for a long time. What I was more going to check is, have they? Yeah, they have been wishing on either Kenichi's or Raiden's banner. I wonder how close they are. Okay, honestly, so there's a character coming out next patch. They want to work towards 36-star in the Abyss, right? That's their goal. Right now, there's an obvious number of things immediately, like just leveling up characters more, leveling up weapons more, getting more artifacts that basically need to be worked on to get to that goal. If you keep on pulling characters and never finishing any character build, and you just 20% invest into a character and then get the next character 20%, if you're never gonna get to that goal point if you don't stop at some point and level up and work on the things you currently have, right? These two units are not bad by any means, so Shivers could be a valuable unit to continue wishing for too. Maybe that's why they were wishing, I don't know, right? I will say, as far as if you're going to pity for one of these 5 stars, there is a very compelling 5-star unit releasing in 17 days, 8 hours, and 34 minutes. And that unit may be more worth waiting for, quite frankly. I'm just trying to encourage, particularly, as a free-to-play player, if your goal is the 36-star Abyss, focus your, wishes down into a specific plan. Because right now I can tell you, like, if you want to use like a Neuvi team and you want to use a Mualani team, well, there you go. You got 2 carry units to have 2 build arounds, as far as what to function a team around. And from there, you probably want to like diversify your supports, and then your off-field damage dealers like Xiangling. I was going to say official, but I actually don't see official here. That makes me sad. I do have Sucrose, by the way. Having a level 80 Sucrose is actually a pretty good thing. Having a level 80 Sucrose without VV, less of a good thing, to be honest. Kachina is also a nice, very accessible unit as far as she requires extremely low investment and can be a good buffer. This is not the buffing set. This is the DPS set. Yeah, you got some compelling... Well, okay, you don't put an attack timepiece even if you're DPS. Don't DPS Kachina, to be honest. I plan to make a DPS Kachina video soon. It's not going to be very good. I could tell you that. She's not a very strong DPS. It'll be fun regardless, but it's not like a smart spending of resources, all I can say. You can just force the 4-piece bonus of this scroll set to get 40% damage bonus for whatever element you trigger Crystallize with. Alright, let's see how much damage the Neuvi gets without looking at the build. Ooh, that was not the greatest start. It's fine? It's fine. I don't know, it's hard to gauge Neuvi because even with bad artifacts, he can feel perfectly cromulent in... Why did I use that word? He can feel perfectly good in Overworld. But Cookie is definitely doing more damage. Cookie is definitely on a Hyper Bloom build. It's fine. Hyper Bloom Neuvi teams are one of the easiest ways to have a low investment, well-performing team. Oh yes, I didn't mention, because this is more just a personal challenge, I am trying to, fix, in air quotes, this account in less than 24 hours. Like, I want to just log onto this account once and then not log on to it again. But the fact that this account has very limited access to farming anything, and the major problem I can guess is just needing to farm for things, means I don't know how successful I'm going to be. So this is definitely going to be a video, I think, that is focused, as most of my account fixing videos are, focused on, providing different options for teams, and then trying to give like baseline recommendations for what things to invest into to get, the likes of Neuvi to do more damage in order to, be able to clear Abyss better or whatever other content more smoothly. I'm going to try to make recommendations that are the most efficient use of resources, essentially. Not that every single recommendation or team I am going to suggest in this video has to be something that Ito Sanzu has to make. We look at chest. Also, we have no prototype Amber. That's a little bit sad, particularly because they do have Baiju. This weapon is perfectly a fine option for him. I honestly would probably lean towards Fab Codex, most likely, because bursting on him or not is a pretty big difference maker. Do not have enough ER on him, that's for dang sure. I prefer having around 200 plus energy recharge on him. You have an attack timepiece on Neuvi. Oh boy. I mean, at least it has some HP rolls. I don't know, forcing the 4-piece set on Neuvi for Mars to say Hunter is like, it maybe makes you have an attack goblet on him too. What's your circlet on Neuvi? Oh, I mean, hey, that circlet is very, very good. But this Neuvi would get meaningfully stronger with just the correct, HP main stat, timepiece, an HP, or obviously a Hydro Goblet. You do have a HP Goblet on Mualani. That's an onset goblet. That's pretty good. Speaking of, Mualani is also on an attack circlet. Okay. This needs to be leveled up, by the way. He's an HP scaler again. Like, he gets a bunch of free damage just by leveling the flower to 20, even if you have bad... Feather's actually pretty decent. You have another one. Ooh, okay, that might be even better. Neuvi really does want to burst consistently every rotation, and in a team like this one, right, where you're using double Dendro, it doesn't actually make sense to do double Dendro with him, because his passive really wants you to use 4 different elements in the team. The only time you don't do 4 element teams with Neuvi is if you have his C1, or if you're pairing Farina with him, because Farina's damage bonus makes up for the loss of not having this 160% multiplier. So anyways, we'll reconfigure a Neuvi team a little bit later to get more value out of Neuvi. Point being is Neuvi, when he's solo Hydro, he wants to burst consistently to be able to get more balls generated so he can do his full 3 charge attacks every rotation. If he is not bursting, he feels like quite a lot worse of a character. Equipment on Dia. So Dia, for your case, I would definitely 100% recommend a 4-piece instructor's build. We're going to try to... In fact, that might actually be my main goal. This video is putting Dia on a 4-piece instructor's build for the purpose of use with Mualani. Do you have the Sumeru craftable? No. You did have 3 Claymore billets, so honestly, I do think this is worthwhile. You have it unlocked? Do not have it unlocked even. This dude here lets you get some Sumeru craftable weapons. Do we have any things? We do! Okay, Only 2. So yeah, not much of the R&R quest is done. The 2 that I would say are worth getting, but the sword and the claymore have a valuable passive, so since you have 2, I'm just gonna get the claymore. Blam. But Sapwood Blade has the same passive that could be worthwhile for Bennett in particular in Dender teams, but you probably don't need to get Sapwood Blade for Bennett, considering you could just use this for a high base attack weapon on Bennett. So if you ever move to using this on a DPS unit, you want to switch Bennett probably to Sapwood Blade is what I would recommend. I've been using this weapon on Dia for a little while now with Mualani, but basically this passive giving 60 EM for Mualani can meaningfully increase her damage, and at R5 it's 120 EM. There's not that many valuable claymores to use, so I think I am safe. They don't have many ores, but we're gonna craft one. They wanted more ways to use Dia, and this is one of the ways to use Dia, and we don't actually have to meaningfully invest resources into this. Hey, thanks, Duluth. That's actually nice. Making Dia more tanky isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's definitely unnecessary. We also don't really need to level this weapon up at all because we don't really care about Dia's damage. You can do carry Dia, to be clear, and can make Dia do meaningful damage, notably through like a Burgeon build with EM, or you could do a much higher investment like Emblem build for a carry Dia in a mono pyro team or something. That is possible. But the easiest use case for Dia, for this account especially, is going to be with Mualani on a 4-piece instructors build with this weapon, and you turn Dia into just a buffer, and as well as a unit that can help you tank some team damage. Unfortunately, obviously, Sanzu has deleted all of their 4-star artifacts, which includes 4-piece instructors, which, upon triggering an elemental reaction, increases all team members' EM by 120. EM increases reaction damage, when Mualani is triggering vaporizes from the pyro that Dia helps put on enemies, then, that's a pretty big sizable buff. You get instructors pieces through exploration in the overworld, as well as from farming bosses. So we might actually farm some bosses. Maybe we'll farm the materials for leveling up Mualani. But Dia herself doesn't really need to be meaningfully leveled for the purpose of buffing the team. Dia can be leveled, and her artifacts can be nice to level, though, to be able to have Dia more tanky. But we can just leave. Wow, it's a really good HP timepiece. That would be really good to actually use on either Mualani or Neuvi as an off piece. And being that you have an onset piece on Mualani already, that is actually maybe a very compelling choice. Why is Kachina using this and Mualani's on this? What are you doing? Let's look at what your neglected Mualani. Okay, first of all, yoink that. The feather, well, I mean, because Mualani's an HP scaler, you don't need to even level this piece up. And then ideally, yeah, so, man, this Mualani is actually not very far from being really competent, right? If we get a crit damage circlet in this set, and then use this onset goblet, switch to this as an off piece, and wham blam, yeah, even with a coat feather, suddenly his Mualani is gonna be hitting. She's gonna be hitting. Now, I'm obviously not going to be able to level all their artifacts to level 20 and show that. I'm just going to put this on Kachina. We can then switch to this crit rate circlet. Fab build on Kachina, right? Then she can trigger Fab sometimes, at least, hopefully. You just need 4-piece of the support set. Oh, wait, we have this. Okay, again, we're just trying to force the 4-piece bonus in this case, which I don't think we can, but we're not that far away from being able to do. I do wonder if Neuvi might be better served by going to a 2-piece combo. Let's check. What do we have for HP? Oh, okay. This could even be actually that could be an onset. This could be an onset 2-piece. Do you have? Okay. It doesn't make sense to farm more of that Hydra set, but this timepiece plus this goblet, right? The 2-piece on Neuvi can absolutely make sense, but it requires having a bunch of crit rate substats. It's a lot harder to do 2-piece without a crit rate weapon. We got Iron Sting, okay, don't bother doing any more refinements on Iron Sting, it's literally irrelevant. Oh, the damage that Kuki is dealing does not scale on damage bonus at all. It just scales on her level and her elemental mastery. So Kuki in this team, you will see a meaningful damage increase with the team if Kuki is leveled to 90. Her talent levels also don't matter other than her skill level for her healing, but this should be plenty of healing. Neuvi, you could leave Neuvi's skill and burst at level 1 and just it would have been a smarter spending of resources realistically to spend no resources in these two and that would probably give you enough resources to like crown his normal attack instead. At the very least, do not spend any more resources, please, in his skill and burst. The vast majority of his damage comes from his normal attack, his beam, right? Not his activation of his skill and burst. So this stupid button does not actually tell players not to waste their resources on talents that are not very valuable to spend resources on. For how we're going to be using Dia's talents don't need to be leveled at all. Our Xiangling is level 9 burst. Interesting. Oh, interesting. It's Pyro Goblet. Wow, you're actually surprisingly close to a pretty decent 4-piece emblem build on Xiangling if you got the catch for her. I usually prefer an ER timepiece, not an attack timepiece. Okay, I think I'm done mostly looking through the character builds. I think I've shed my spiel. There are things that could be improved, maybe by tweaking individual builds around one way or another. I do think Sanzu might be over-prioritizing the set bonuses a little bit, compared to just like putting the right main stats on characters. But in cases where, you know, the set bonus with these new artifact sets giving a bunch of crit can be so many stats that you get, it can be compelling to force, right? With the state of this account not having very many artifact options in general. Also, this is an extremely good circlet. Wonder, do we have this attack goblet on... Ooh, yeah, you know what? Here. Not that it's ideal to put an attack goblet by any means, especially on a, you know, a slingshot build on Tignari, but, you know, just having more crit rate is kind of what this Tignari needs. I'll see if I can set up a team for Tignari to be compelling too, just because this build is actually pretty good. Tignari would very much want to be level 90 though to maximize spread damage. Oh my gosh, you have an EM timepiece. It's a 4-line with ER. It's not even leveled up. Makes me sad. I don't even have a piece like this on my main account. We are one artifact away from being able to force 4-piece VV on Sucrose. But if you see any EM goblet Sanzu, and this includes 4-star ones, keep your 4-star and 5-star EM goblets, any of them. You have multiple characters that could potentially use them right now. I'm going to spend a little bit of time configuring different team options for Sanzu, and I'll go over some of them and, you know, what can make them work and how to prioritize the investment level in them, and then we might see what we can figure out to get them to work as well. Alrighty, I think I'm done making some example recommended teams. So for Mualani, the main recommendation I would have is to do a burning team. And the reason for that is just Mualani wants to vape to get her max potential. So that means you need to have some amount of pyro going on enemies to be able to consistently get the big number. That means Dia can be a useful component of that because she does coordinated pyro damage with her skill. And then if you bring in some Dendro, that causes additional pyro application that can just make it very, very easy to keep up permanent uptime. You kind of need to get Baiju to the point of having a burst up every rotation, and that's why something like a prototype Amber, which respawns some energy, or in this case, we'll just put him on Fab for now. Baiju's burst is what gives him some off-field Dendro, and that little bit of off-field Dendro will keep up your pyro application going between Dia and Baiju, such that you can vape every one of Mualani's big hits. But anyway, Sucrose is a very low field time unit. You have the potential to be able to do 4-piece VV, and 4-piece VV is when you swirl, you reduce the elemental resistance of whatever element you swirled, so, you know, ideally Hydro in this case, and you can get a lot bigger damage number. Now, in this team, when you have burning going on enemies, it's going to be very hard to swirl Hydro consistently, at least with any amount of meaningful uptime. Her passive will buff EM of the team, and buffing EM is buffing reaction damage. And then on top of that, she contributes a little bit of damage of her own with Swirl. And her burst, it's a little bit situational, but mostly it's just there. She can do a little bit of grouping. So like it would probably take, I'd say, less than 2 weeks of farming to get to that, to get to the point of doing like 200k damage, I'd say, on Mualani, if not more. Like, that might be a little bit of a pessimistic estimate. Oh yeah, Mualani's skills, prioritize leveling up her skill talent. This is where the vast majority of her damage comes from. Leveling up her burst is worthwhile a little bit, but I wouldn't bother taking it much past level 6, at least initially, and do not bother with her normal attack talent at all. None of her damage comes from this. None of it. So yeah, this should be a very easy to play, comfortable team with, you know, as long as you get to the point of being able to burst consistently on Baiju in particular. Not super important to burst consistently on Sucrose, though it could be nice. This is an alternative variation of the team without Sucrose, because Nahida can give an EM buff just like Sucrose can. Her Dendro application is just by her skill, right? You don't need to have extra ER on Baiju then in this context. This is a more, I'd say this is a more ready to go team. The reason I'm not going to recommend this team is Nahida's probably a unit you're going to want to use with Neuvillette on like the other side of Abyss kind of thing. So not my number 1 recommendation, but if you just want to use this for Overworld, this could be a more easy, compelling choice for Overworld. Last Mualani team option, and this is, again, would take more investment, but I'm suggesting it because Candace, unironically, particularly without C6, because C6 Candace can actually screw up things a little bit. This team, basically you do Candace EQ, switch to Sucrose, swirl Hydra with a VV build, get EM buff and the Hydra Res Shred going, and then have Xiangling's Pyro application going for being able to then get really big damage numbers on Mualani. It will be strong. This is harder to play though, and would take meaningful, significant investment into Xiangling to get her to a build that has enough energy recharge to burst consistently. You'd probably have to use Fab, a lot of ER subsets. Like it's much harder to build towards this team. I want to emphasize this. This is not like a ready to go team at all. Would have to invest a bit in Candace. Mostly just, again, also getting her to the point of being able to burst consistently, because her burst will give normal attack damage bonus. Being a second Hydra teammate also means you get Hydra Resonance, which is more HP, more damage from Mualani. This team will probably get bigger damage numbers on Mualani than these previous teams, but would be less comfortable to play. Oh, and also, notably, Sucrose would probably also want to do Prototype Amber in this team, and again, you don't have any Prototype Ambers or billets for it. But that's just so that Sucrose would be doing a little bit of healing in the team. So this team right now doesn't have any healing, which is a pretty big downside. I set up one example Tignari team here. I'll talk about Singcho being here in a second. Tignari, you need an Electro unit to trigger spread with him. Tignari does not spend enough constant field time. Like, he's a quick swap unit that usually what you can make of him is what else you're doing in the team that isn't just his damage. Farina in this account's case would have been the ideal teammate, because you could have done something like Tignari, Kuki on her Hyperbloom build, Farina, Baiju. Farina's damage, Tignari's damage, and the Hyperbloom damage would have been a very compelling team. So this is like the same variation of the team without Farina. Now, when Tignari is doing his charge attacks, he will not be triggering Xingqiu's burst. Xingqiu is not built, by the way, on this account, and don't even have Su2 Xingqiu for the additional burst duration. This one would take more investment. You'd want a level 90 Tignari, because the spread damage is going to be based on his base level quite significantly. Speaking of, by the way, Nahida, if you want to get meaningfully more value out of her damage potential, you would want to level 90 her. You have a decent enough build at her damage contribution, because she gets herself in crit rate from EM, is not going to be that insignificant. Ideally, eventually would have her on EM or Dendro Goblet, and then a EM or crit circlet. Like don't underestimate this lady's damage potential. She's also here so that there's someone on Deepwood on the team. So basically the dynamic of this team would be, do Nahida, probably do Kuki, do Tignari, 3 charge attacks, and then you switch to Xingqiu, do his burst, and then start doing normal attacks on Nahida, and then, with Kuki up, you're triggering some Hyper Blooms in the downtime. Oh, and then you can use another skill on Tignari, right? So the dynamic of this team would be swapping between, like, on-field Tignari and Nahida, doing normal attacks on Nahida to get extra Dendro, and Bloom Core generation that Kuki can then trigger Hyper Bloom on. But you already actually got the artifacts for Tignari to make a pretty compelling build on him, so that's why it's like a worthwhile consideration, I would say. And again, Xingqiu is not the ideal teammate by any means. For Neuvillette, I got 2 variations. The first Neuvillette team is very similar to the one you used before. The reason Dia is compelling here is Dia can provide some interruption resistance for the start of Neuvillette's rotations. And that can solve a problem that Neuvillette's on his hands, which is getting whacked out of his charge attacks when you first start it. And Dia prevents that. Dia also makes Neuvillette vape occasionally, and can be on the same buffing build she is with Mualani to get some team EM, and you're doing Hyper Bloom with Kuki, means it's buffing your Hyper Bloom damage. Kuki would want to be level 90 in this team. Neuvillette wants to be level 90. Also, as I've kind of talked about already, you're going to want to, have a better build than this, right? Need HP main stat. We do have this good, compelling Goblet as an option in the future, but, would require an onset circlet, and this circlet's really good, right? There's no perfect, easy route right now, I'd say, with your current artifacts to getting Neuvillette to the point of being very functional for Abyss, particularly because, he's going to want a bit of energy recharge to be able to burst every rotation as well. Point being, like, the main solution for Neuvillette is to farm a little bit more artifacts for him and level him to 90, and then his teams will probably start to be pretty good. And since Dia is likely going to be desirable to use with Mualan, I'd probably suggest Kachina actually in place of Dia here. Kachina, when she triggers Hydro Crystallize, can give 40% Hydro damage bonus for Nubilet. Doesn't require much investment, we would just need to force the 4-piece set bonus here. The only issue you might have is trying to consistently trigger Hydro Crystallize and not accidentally triggering like an Electro Crystallize. But it isn't that hard as long as you make sure you do something like Nubilet E first, switch to Kachina, press her E, and then do your like Nahida and Kuki and whatnot. Second variation of a Nubilet team is mostly, again, if you wanted like Nahida available for a different team, because Nahida is a desirable unit in many ways. Sucrose can be used to swirl Hydro, bigger number. She can do damage bonus I just talked about. And then Kuki is mostly here just for more healing. Like, Fischl would, I would say, 100% be the ideal teammate here, or maybe a Xiangling if she was built for solo pyro, but like, I don't know, Rosaria I guess is an alternative. But Kuki's very replaceable here, but she's a healer. She'll do something. This is still a worthwhile consideration, at least for just the fact that you're doing VV and damage bonus from Kachina can make Nubilet deal meaningfully more damage. So this team's rotation would look like something like, Kuki E, Nubilet E, swirl on Sucrose, press E on Kachina, switch back to Nubilet, burst, start doing 3 charge attacks, burr, and then rinse and repeat, and you will get big numbers on Nubilet once he's a bit more invested into it. The strength of this team, though, will definitely be more and more dependent on how good your Nubilet artifacts are, compared to this previous team, being that so much of the team's damage is potentially from Hyperbloom, not just Nubilet's own damage contribution, makes this one a lower investment team to have good damage. And last thing I put here isn't really a team, but more like a team core, and Sucrose is just here because, like, honorary mention. Honestly, I think we're going to go farm a little bit of VV just to be able to force the 4-piece VV with a flower, but investing more into Bennett and Xiangling may be worthwhile for the future. Xiangling could make for a very compelling teammate for, Mualani teams, but also just Xiangling and Bennett is a good combo in general. You have a high base attack sword for Bennett. You are 1 constellation away from C5 Bennett, and with that leveled up sword and a level 13 burst on Bennett, Bennett can buff attack by like around 1200, and that is a large amount of damage for any attack scaling unit in the game. If you ever want to do, Bennett, Dia, Xiangling, and then either like Kazuha, Sucrose, or Xylonin in the future, that'd be a mono pyro team. Like, that could actually perform better than you expect, not necessarily on the strengths of Dia, but or you could do mono pyro D-Luke, right? There's many a team variation whose strength would be dependent on your Bennett, and you are actually not that far away from having a competent Bennett build. Right now, with the characters that Sanzu has, they're not really in a state where it actually makes sense to invest in Bennett, since their 2 main compelling units to build teams around are, of course, our HP scalers, and then there's also Tignari, who is not an HP scaler, but he does scale less on attack than most DPSs, and more just based on EM and how the spread reaction works. Yada yada, yap. Point is, this is a compelling actual team core. These are units worth potentially investing into. I've given you a lot of options. If you want my overall list of priorities, I'd say level 90ing Nubilet, level 90ing Kuki. If you want to play Tignari, potentially leveling him to 90 could work well. And then from there, it's just getting a little bit better artifacts for Mualani, a little bit better artifacts for Nubilet, and suddenly this account is in a very healthy state. Like, I unironically, I do not think it would take that much farming to fix this account. You just gotta focus down your priority list of things to do. My goal for this video, I think, is going to be getting Dia on 4-piece instructors and getting Sucrose on 4-piece VV, and then we will go farm a little bit of artifacts and see what we can do. See how long this dude takes to fight. Let's not forget to do that. That. A little leap on the ground, by the way, is underneath this dude. When you have large hitbox enemies, you do have potential issues. Okay, obviously we can see here that we didn't have that's burst out. That wasn't necessarily an ER problem there. That was just didn't have it before, but yes. I don't think we have C2 Kuki, by the way, so there's a little bit of downtime. I'm not confident this team, once invested more into, would be like, oh, immediately taking, Sanzu to clearing 36 starring Abyss every cycle. But it would definitely be able to clear floor 12 relatively easily, right? Is what I would probably say. Ah, you killed Cookie. Whoops. And laser him down, and we're fine. So little Neuvi left. And hey, we got an instructor's goblet. Nice. Certainly better than nothing. I really wish Sanzu had a bunch of fragile resin saved so I could level up the likes of Mualan and like properly try to get to this account to the point of like at least clearing floor 12 of Spiral Abyss. It is what it is. It's just a little unfortunate because I absolutely see the path to success for this account, but I don't have, oh god, don't die. I don't have any meaningful access to fix things today. And if you're watching, dear viewer, good job, me. The lesson you're supposed to learn is that these are things you have access to doing on your account too, most likely. You might not have all the same characters exactly, but chances are you can interface with similar mechanisms that are available to you. I have yet to find an account that I logged into that did not have options available to the player to be able to deal with whatever they wanted to achieve. Ooh, well, one more, very good, very good. Oh, 3 drops too, nice. Oh wow, that's very nice too. You can also the nice little tech you can do, by the way. You can do this little like hold and spurt on Neuvi when you don't have energy on him in a Hyperbloom team, and that gets Hydro application out every single time. Oh, another instructor's piece. Let's go. Oh, 3 drops too. He's being so generous, game. We are 1 piece away from 4-piece instructors. We have 30 resin left. Can do the whale for Mualani's talent. Yeah, we'll do that. Let's go fight the whale. Hopefully we'll get instructor's piece from it. Okay, I died with Neuvi. Side effect of Neuvi not actually having HP. Oh my god, oops. Side effect of Neuvi not actually having HP. Side effect of Dia not tanking very well because it's definitely is a good example of why I feel quite strongly that having Prototype Amber on a Neuvi team is valuable. That little bit of additional team-wide healing makes kind of all the difference in the world sometimes. But also just, having the characters leveled enough to not die from everything is nice too. I imagine Sanzu was using, the Nahida Baiju Kuki Neuvi variation of this team. Not because Neuvi actually makes sense there, it's just because the Hybrid Bloom is strong. 75-80% of this team's damage in the Baiju Nahida it was coming from, Kuki Hyper Bloom, even with Kuki at only level 80 here. Neuvi has far more potential than this, but is struggling because of the build. And the funny thing with doing, Nahida Baiju Kuki is using a unit like Sing Cho that would apply much more Hydro would be stronger for the team's damage output than using Neuvi here, most likely. Point is, the Neuvi really needs some work. It is worth investing more in him because, go figure, he's a strong unit. And, Dia isn't providing nearly as much value as she could in this team, again, because of Neuvi not having a very invested build. It's not anywhere near as valuable to get occasional vapes or get interruption resistance on Neuvi when his damage contribution isn't very high. Which is to say, Sanzu is, at least temporarily, you shouldn't feel bad about, switching back to Baiju instead of Dia here. But when you actually get a bit invested into Neuvi, and it wouldn't take you that long. It's more just, switching to an HP or Hydro Goblet and switching to an HP timepiece and being able to burst consistently on him will make all the difference in the world. And Prototype Amber over this weapon, as fun as this weapon is at higher investment levels, would be much more comfortable and stronger because of the energy refunding. And we did not, we got a Dream Solvent, that's nice. Got the wrong drop type. And, we got an Instructor's timepiece. Yes, let's go. Means we can successfully transition Dia to a 4-piece Instructor's build. This doesn't look very satisfying. And I would definitely say Dia would want to be much more tanky than she... 12,000 HP Dia is not ideal. Or Dia will die fairly often in this build. So, leveling her up more... The weapon doesn't really need to be leveled because it's not going to contribute to her being more tanky. Ideally, it would be an HP Goblet, HP Timepiece. So, Sanzu, please watch for any future Instructor's pieces. We've got 5 condensed resin left. Hey, we even got a 5-star piece. Let's go. Not worthwhile right now, not the priority. It's more than good enough. I do not know this is the best use of this condensed resin, but I'm doing it because we can't use it for bosses anyways. We could use it for Heroes Wits, which, maybe we should. That's one of the main things that Sanzu definitely would need to focus farming on, is just build up a Heroes Wits and more supply a little bit so they can finish leveling some of their characters. We're just going to do this anyways because I do think it is not that statistically unlikely for us to get the, oh my gosh, for us to get the pieces we need for success here, right? That's the idea, at least. We'll see what happens. Plus, this domain is not that annoying to farm, which is nice. Oh, I don't have Kuki going. I definitely noticed not having C2 Kuki. Also, you can see how very close to dead Dia is. Yeah, Dia is quite close to dead. Also, I just realized part of the reason Dia is dying, we don't have her last passive unlocked. This last passive is kind of important for Dia's tanking ability, so that she can heal herself. I don't think you need to crazy level up Dia more. I do definitely think she needs to get this next ascension. Anyways, we're gonna get a crit damage circlet right here. Yep, like I said, right there. It's better than an attack circlet we have currently, so when you're at this state of an account investment, right, 4-star pieces still have the ability to give you relevant stats. And now that we got a circlet on this set, oh look, we just switched Dia off of this and we have this amazing off piece to use on Mualan. Wow. And if we add the 40% crit rate, suddenly we're at 70% crit rate and not much crit damage. You know, the things aren't even leveled yet, so it's not that surprising we don't have that much crit damage. If I had realized, oh, yep. Yeah, if I had realized the Dia passive thing before, I would have probably prioritized getting the 2 drops for Dia rather than for Mualan farming. Didn't think about it. Oh well, my bad. Now, this is realistic. We don't need more of them. Okay, that's very good though. Feather. Yeah, hey, that's definitely better than what we had before for Mualan. We obviously have this on her now, which is very, very good. This is still a very good onset goblet, and then the circlet situation is not ideal, I would say. But even leveling this up is still, I would say, worthwhile. But we are also farming, of course, to try to make sure we get the 4-piece of the scroll set on Kachina. There we go, so Kachina can now be a proper buffer. She only needs investment higher than this if you need her not to die. We are completely out of resin for me to be able to do anything as far as farming this for this account goes, and again, like, there's so many different things to be farmed that realistically it's going to take probably, I don't know, I'm just going to throw out an estimate of like 4,000 resin. Right now, artifacts are definitely not the priority in my opinion. Well, okay, artifacts are kind of the priority for Neuvi, but again, level Neuvi to 90, level Mualan to 90, level up Dia to probably 70 at least, level up her artifacts, level Kuki to 90, probably get Baiju on an ER timepiece. You know what, let's put this on Baiju. Oh wait, Nahida's on 5-piece Deepwood. Okay. Oh, okay. Wait, we can switch to this on Nahida then. But now Baiju's on 4-piece Deepwood with an ER timepiece, and now he should have enough ER to burst mostly consistently. Alright, so Mualan is only level 50 with a very low talent levels and yeah, whatever, right? But I'm curious what's gonna happen here. How much vape damage are we gonna get on her? Do this. And then we're gonna pick up the leaf, so you can see we have 292 EM. Let's see what we get. Bam. Nice, 23k. Honestly, nothing to sneeze at. Right? Like, she's only level 50, but hey, it's enough damage to completely kill the enemies here. The potential is so much higher, though. As far as... I didn't mean to press that button. As far as Sanzu's account goes, you know, this is probably the least I have fixed an account as far as things I have materially done. And ultimately, all I think I did is hopefully set Sanzu on the right path. But Sanzu, feel free to DM me if you want. This account is not as far away as it might look to having competent team options, right? It's just going to take a little bit of leveling existing characters. Hopefully, though, Sanzu found some of my advice useful, and that can get them on the right path for their account being fixed, whatever fixing might mean to them. Feel free to comment, though, for anything you think I might have missed as recommended options for Sanzu, or whatever else. Anywho, I'm yapping. This video is probably long enough already. I actually recorded way longer than I expected I was going to on this account. Hopefully you enjoyed. Subscribe for more. We'll have another free-to-play account fixing video soon to see how that compares. And have a wonderful